Let's not stand on ceremony, mate. Let's start the show.
We would be honored if you would join us.
What's up? It is 1:03, and we are live and in charge here. That is awesome. I'm very, very happy with that. We finally got it going right. So,
yeah.
What's going on?
We'll find out in 5 minutes that nobody can hear us or something. But,
well,
but for now, we should be happy.
I did make sure I had my Twitch app up, and I made sure that our starting soon screen was on there. My speaking voice is not good because I'm stuttering. But look, hey, look, wait, whoop. Inception, we're in there. So we're working. Welcome, everybody.
I'm glad. So why don't you tell everybody who we are then?
Oh, we are the Punch Drunk Critics, and you are listening and watching Smash Cut. I'm still kind of getting used to the live video thing. As you can tell, I forgot to comb my hair before this thing. But we're two DC area film critics. We've been running a website together that hopefully you're aware of, punchdrunkcritics.com, for about the last 10 years, if you can believe that. Maybe almost 11.
What's your name?
They don't even know my name. My name is John Nolan. That guy over there is Travis Hobson. And, you do the intros, man. I'm not a self-promoter like you are. You're better at that than me.
I'm not a self-promoter.
Not in a negative way, but in a positive way where you can tell people who you are and where to look out for you. No, oh, that's Sweet Tea. That's Sweet Tea. All right. So yeah, it's been
Sweet Tea with it's probably made with Splenda, but it's no sugar. So
the diabetic stuff. So it's been a couple weeks since we had a proper show. We're trying to get this remote thing figured out so we can make sure to get to you guys every week. And in between weeks, we're going to start doing interviews, or not interviews, rather. Well, maybe some interviews, but reviews and maybe some news blips and things like that throughout the week. Anything big that comes up, we're working on that. That's all on its way to roll out for you. So you can just stick with us here the same way you stick with our site, punchdrunkcritics.com, for all your written news, and twitch.tv/NME Live for the Smash Cut video to see our pretty faces every day. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
It was kind of a light week because this was the 4th of July, of course. So so there wasn't a whole lot of stuff that went down this week.
Right.
There were only a couple of big movies, and of course one was Spider-Man: Far From Home.
Right.
Which I'm just going to tell everybody right now, we're going in on spoilers because I'm tired of acting like I'm tired of trying to hide spoilers from people from this point.
Yeah.
We're just going in on spoilers from now on. This is the way I look at it.
I'm glad to hear you say that because I have a very big question about the post-credit scene that I need to get addressed. And
okay, that's good. That's good. I went to see it again with a friend of mine, and she had questions about it too. So it's all good. The other one was Midsummer, which is the follow-up film from Ari Aster, the guy who did Hereditary last year. So both movies came out this week. A little bit of counter-programming there.
Yeah.
Not a lot of families want to see Midsummer, I think.
No, I hope not.
Not a lot of. And if they did go to see Midsummer, and look, I can see some people being possibly confused by the marketing.
It's
a very bright pastel-colored movie. And when I did Good Morning Washington on Friday, I tried to tell the person I was talking to, I was like, don't let the bright colors and the sunny atmosphere fool you. This is not,
and we'll get into it more, but that's the unsettling aspect of the whole thing that really drives it home. I mean, were you a fan of Hereditary?
I was not.
No.
I mean, let me be a little bit more nuanced with that. I thought it was fine. I thought the reaction to it was overblown. And I remember it at Sundance that year, and I remember everybody going nuts over it. And of course, I didn't see it at Sundance because I usually don't go see horrors when I'm there. He's not too many of them. I'll go see The Witch, and I think this year I went to see Little Monsters, but very rarely do I go seek out horrors when I'm at Sundance. But everybody was talking about Hereditary. Mainly, they were talking about Toni Collette's performance, and yeah, I think she's really good in it. But do I think the movie does anything particularly special for the genre? No, not really. Midsummer, I think is a far better movie, because it's not, and we're pretty much talking about Midsummer at this point, but that's okay. It's not really a horror movie. It's a big theatrical operatic breakup film. It's a relationship movie, and I appreciate it on that level, because the other stuff, the cultish stuff, the freakish stuff, all the pagan rituals, the brief spurts of gore, I don't think they're particularly novel. They're interesting, but it was the relationship between Jack Rayner's character and Florence Pugh's character, this couple where he's basically trying to get himself out.
Yeah.
But he's kind of trapped in it. And I was explaining is I've kind of been in that situation.
Yeah.
Where a relationship is going downhill, but something happens that you can't really just leave.
I think that's the most relatable thing. Yeah, that's the most relatable thing about the whole movie.
You're like an asshole if you try to leave when this person's sort of going through a trauma. What are you going to do? You're kind of stuck, and he's kind of stuck. And there's a point for a while there where I was kind of on his side. It's like, yeah, man, she's really kind of fractured, and she's so brittle. It's like, what are you going to do, man? You can't just. I feel kind of bad for him.
Yeah.
But that was very short-lived. His character's an asshole.
Yeah. Well, and that's what kind of struck me about it. That was so weird. Is like, with horror movies, you never really expect to relate to the characters. That's not what they're about, really. I mean, you want to have something you can attach to, so you can really feel what's going on. But as far as relating to them, and I think that's one of the things that, and maybe. See, I have a personal experience. Now, obviously, not my wonderful wife that I'm with now, but
you went to a Swedish festival, a summer solstice festival.
I did, and nobody told me that pants were required. Swedish film festival or Swedish festival, you think no pants. It was embarrassing.
You didn't go piss on any ancient trees though while you were there, did you?
Piss? No.
Okay.
We'll leave it at that. No, but I mean, everybody. I think I would assume most guys and girls have been in a situation where you get in that relationship and you're exactly like you said, stuck for one reason or another. Like, you could do what's best for you, but doing what's best for you, what you should always do most of the time, I should say, is going to make you look like the asshole, and we all stick it out for far longer than we're supposed to. But yeah, they turned that on its head pretty quick though too. I thought the best thing about Midsummer was that it kind of took that angle, and it was a more relatable angle in this completely unrelatable world. But also this most simple thing that you're in an environment where everybody seems happy and everything's bright and everything's colorful, and just it's a primal thing. But that dichotomy between expecting the dark and stormy night with horror and then getting the sunny, sunny atmosphere with these horrible things going on. That being said, I haven't been a huge fan. I feel like, we've talked about The Witch before. I wasn't a huge fan of that either, but I felt like Hereditary and Midsummer both fall in the range of horror movies that everybody swears are scariest movies of all time, just because they're a little bit more artsy, if that might not be the right word, but a little bit more classy than your standard horror movie. Is it are either one of those the scariest movie of all time? Not even close, but they are definitely, I thought, good movies to watch. And I've always kind of been particular to the whole cult aspect thing. Like, they did a movie not too long ago, and I can't remember the name of it. It was basically not shot for shot, but it was basically a documentary film about Jonestown, but it was done using, it was done like a regular movie. And that to me has always been the creepiest thing in the world. Like these cults, like the power that, we see it now in our current political realm without getting into it, but the power that certain people can have over the masses and what it can bring them to do. And then you bring them to religions into it and the cultish things. That's always been in my wheelhouse of things that really twinge me, so that might have had something to do with it.
Yeah, no, I'm actually, I'm not the biggest horror fan in the world, and I wouldn't even necessarily call Midsummer a horror movie. I'm not even sure if I would even call it that. It's more of a thriller, dramatic thriller than anything else, I think. But,
yeah, I think the first disembowelment gets you the horror tag. But I agree.
It's been labeled a horror, and that's fine. It's easy shorthand for it, but I wouldn't even necessarily call it a horror. In terms of the genre, I tend to gravitate towards the cultish stuff too. Like I really appreciated last year's film Apostle.
Oh yeah, that was good.
Starred Dan Stevens and was directed by Gareth Evans, guy who did The Raid.
Yeah, the Netflix movie. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Netflix film. I really like that film. The Wicker Man is garbage, but I mean, but you know,
Which one?
It's kind of fun garbage. Well, the Nicolas Cage one, of course.
Okay. Did you ever see the original one?
The original's. I don't think the original's that great either, but it's better than the Nick Cage one.
I never saw the original one, so I asked. I just saw the Nick Cage one, and him with the bees on his head and going crazy was awesome. But yeah.
Pretty bad. But in terms of that realm, I think this one is pretty far up there in being a really good film.
Oh yeah, Florence Pugh, by the way. I mean, she first really knocked out for me with the Robert the Bruce movie. What was it called? With Chris Pine.
Oh shoot.
We are awesome film critics.
No, I mean I always tend to forget stuff like that.
Yeah, whenever you're put on spot. But yeah, she really bounced for me or popped for me in that, and then
Lady Macbeth, that one.
No, I'm pulling.
Oh, you mean Outlaw King?
Oh yeah, Outlaw King. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Lady Macbeth was her breakout film, but
that
yeah,
was right
Outlaw
before
King
that. Yeah.
on Netflix was also. I already forgot about that movie.
Yeah.
Which I guess say something, I suppose.
I liked it. I mean, I thought it was pretty good.
I forgot about it.
It might just be Chris Pine's dong that keeps it in my memory, I guess, but I don't know.
I totally forgot about that movie. It's one of those Netflix films that, like I've talked about a million times before, it just kind of goes down the memory hole.
Yeah,
But
well, hey.
It came out, and then that was kind of it. So yeah, there was like a week of buzz for it, and then it was just sort of, that was it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, 10 years ago, I could shame you for forgetting the name of a movie that had buzz at any time, but it's impossible to remember. And even for guys like us that, revolve our lives around media, it's impossible to stay up and remembering all this stuff they got nowadays, so.
I really loved Florence Pugh when she played Paige in Fighting with My Family, the WWE film from earlier this year. She's really fantastic in that.
Mm-hmm.
I really like her as an actress, and I think she's fantastic in this movie. I was a little bit worried because both of Astor's big films, this and Hereditary, feature female leads who are always under duress.
Right.
And it seems like that's like their one prevailing emotion. Like I thought Toni Collette was fine in Hereditary, but I feel like it was sort of one note.
Mm-hmm.
And I know everybody liked her performance, and I liked it too, but it didn't feel like it had a lot of depth to it. I really liked Florence Pugh here. Although I could say that within the first 30 minutes, I predicted what the final shot of the movie was going to be, and I was right. I mean, it was pretty obvious where it was going to go.
Yeah.
When you have this troubled woman in this place, in this sort of atmosphere. There was going to be an evolution of sorts for her.
Right. Yeah.
Not going to be the same person at the end of it that she was at the beginning. And I was like, I think I have an idea where this is going to go. I was like, oh, yep.
So you called the ending, or you called the actual final shot? Because
you call the final shot.
Yeah, my wife Angela hates when I do that, but there's just something special about when you're 20 minutes into a movie and you can already see the closing shot right before the credits roll. And some people are, you can call it lazy foreshadowing for some, but I think if it's done right, you can tell what they want to do so much that you can see where it's going.
And it doesn't really matter. It's how they get there. It's
right.
The journey. It's the journey that takes you there that really counts. It didn't affect my enjoyment of the movie at all. That I ended up being right about that.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of enhanced it in a way because I was like, well, is this really going to be the case? Like, what's going on? Okay, but I thought he did a good job of taking her to that place. And there was plenty of other stuff that happened in it that I did not predict. So it was, yeah. I mean, Midsummer obviously not for you if you're probably going to go see Spider-Man with the fam.
Yeah.
But I think if you're a fan of this brand of horror, this is definitely one to check out. And it's actually one of the most gorgeous movies that's been shot this year. It is a beautiful movie.
Yeah.
He does this thing where it always, like, the background is always sort of swelling. It's almost like you're standing on the edge of a volcano,
mm-hmm.
and you see the heat rising everywhere. Like, if you look at the background, nothing is ever still. It's very interesting. It's a weird phenomenon, and I was like just totally engrossed by that.
Yeah, and I mean that's like I mentioned earlier, that is something really shouldn't be overlooked, not only on its technical merit but also what it does for the tension in the movie. I mean, there's just something about two things not being right, like when you see a little kid in a dark, scary hallway. It's two things that shouldn't be together, and the horrible things that are happening here, the tension that's building, shouldn't be in this idyllic Swedish field. You know what I mean? Where all this beautiful stuff is happening, and you have such dark, horrible things going on at the same time. It really does set the stage for everything.
When you put too many white people together in a place in a commune like
trouble.
This, what happens? It's nothing ever good comes from that many white people gathered together. It just nothing good comes out of it. Especially if you're an outsider.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're an outsider, you enter into that mix.
Welcome to this episode of Kill Whitey with Travis and John.
A couple of people from other cultures that came up in there. Ain't nobody ended up in a good place after that.
Yeah, well, in fairness, the white people got it too.
Especially in the movies, it's never a good thing.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'll give you that. Honestly, if there's one thing that is pretty consistent in movies, it's if you got a bunch of white people in a very happy place and a minority comes in, something's it's either gonna be played for laughs or something bad's gonna happen. One of the two things. That's something we've never been able to get past in cinema.
Bad usually happens. Anyway, Midsummer I would definitely recommend that.
Unless Steve Harvey's in it, because if Steve Harvey's in it, it's probably a comedy with like Ashton Kutcher or something.
Right.
So.
It could be Cleavon Little and it could be Blazing Saddles or something, but then that's playing it for laughs.
Yeah.
But anyway, did you see Spider-Man? Did you get a chance to see it? Did you see it?
I did.
See it just the one time?
I just saw it once. I saw it once over the weekend, so that's all I could get out to. But I did see it. Spider-Man.
A pretty good box office this weekend.
A little bit. A little bit.
It opened on Tuesday, so it's had 6 days. But $580 million for the week, worldwide.
Yeah,
pretty good week.
And they took full advantage of the holiday week, and the planning of where they were going to put it out was perfect. I do question their release for Endgame, the re-release Endgame, as being right that close before this. They could have given themselves 2 weeks, and they could have really made a better push for that record if they really wanted it. But
because the DVD's coming out soon, home release of Endgame's coming out really soon, so that's why they couldn't wait too long.
Yeah, that's true too. But yeah, honestly, I've never. If you ask me, am I a huge Spider-Man fan? I never would say no. If you asked me who my favorite hero was, never would have been Spider-Man.
Nope.
But that being said, I've always loved the Spider-Man movies, and I always like seeing Spider-Man, if that makes sense. And Tom Holland. I know I'm not saying anything new here, but Tom Holland is too perfect for words in this role.
He's my favorite Spider-Man, and that's not easy for me to say because I love Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man.
See, I always thought I
am a huge fan of Tom Holland. I think this is the movie that solidified him as my favorite Spider-Man right now.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is, it pulls Tobey Maguire was good. I always thought his look was a little weird for Spider-Man, but he did pull it off very well. He had the nerdy.
To be fair, you think Tobey Maguire's look is weird, period.
Fair enough. Yeah.
This is the first time we've had a discussion about Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, fair enough. He weirds me out a little bit. But Tobey Maguire had the nerdy outsider high school kid thing down pat, and then Andrew Garfield, for everybody that hated everything about him, pulled in the sarcastic, fun Spider-Man piece, but not the other part. Tom Holland comes in and pulls in those two major pieces of who Spider-Man is: the nerdy reporter, outsider type kid, and the sarcastic, fun-loving Spider-Man. While he's got the mask on.
I don't think there's been a bad Spider-Man yet in live action. Like in terms of these three franchises, all three of them have been good Peter Parkers in different ways.
Yeah.
Because I even like Andrew Garfield too. But I think Tom Holland, he's the right age range for it. He brings the right youthful energy to it. Tobey Maguire always felt a little too old for it.
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield was kind of like that too for me. Tom Holland is the perfect age.
And that can't be understated, because that gets overlooked a little bit, but that can't really be understated because the big thing about Peter Parker is he's a kid and he can be any kid, and he's an outsider in his life, but he's also an outsider in the Avengers because he's so much younger than everybody else, and that's a big part of who he is. So that's, to me at least, I thought that was a big part.
Yeah, I think Marvel did a brilliant job in marketing this movie before we even really start talking about what we like about the film itself.
Mm-hmm.
That I loved just going back to the box office, $580 million. The way they marketed it was brilliant because I think a lot of people were expecting that after Avengers Endgame, there would be, everybody's been predicting the superhero fatigue.
Mm-hmm.
Superhero fatigue that's never happened.
For 20 years, they've been saying that.
They've been predicting it for so many years now. But I think there was legit concern about it happening after Endgame because you've had this decade-long story that finally gets wrapped up, and people might be like, okay, it's time to take a break. That's legit. That's a legit concern.
Yeah.
So what Marvel did was they pivoted, and rather than promoting Spider-Man as the beginning of a new phase, which I think is what we all thought it was going to be, they said, no, this is an epilogue to Endgame. You need to see this one to get the end of the story. So people were like, oh, this is sort of like a sequel to Endgame. I need to go see it. And that marketing, that idea really took hold. And I think that's reason why a lot of people came to this one. It went to it early. This one had a $40 million Tuesday. I mean, this movie was big right from the start.
Yeah.
I think Marvel was brilliant in that marketing plan by calling it an epilogue. That was the smartest thing they could have done for this movie because it very well could have been underwhelming. And obviously, it's not going to be. It's probably going to surpass Homecoming, which made $880 million over its run. It's probably going to beat that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't, just because of how much his stars. Now, Homecoming had the benefit of having his Civil War intro. Another example of Marvel doing things a really, really smart way. You don't need to introduce somebody like Spider-Man, but to give a taste of your new guy to the audience before it comes out is genius. I mean, they're always doing things in a trailblazing way that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, you can't say enough how genius they are on every level. I mean, I hate to be down on my knees for them, but it's just a case. I mean, I don't know. Do you feel like the superhero fatigue really had a chance? Like, I haven't really felt that as much since Marvel came out.
I do think it was a legitimate concern after Endgame. I do.
Okay.
I mean, I do think because, like I said, 10 years and 20 plus movies, and the story is over. That's the story they've been building to. I think that maybe not for the most hardcore fans, but the casual people who have been following this may have been like, yeah, but do I really need to see this one? The story's over. This
Plus,
one could be
2 of your top draws are gone out of the series now.
Yeah, I mean, people might have been like, yeah, I can take a break from this. This might be like sort of like one of the Ant-Man movies. Do I really need to see it? Maybe
right.
Not. He's going away to Europe. That doesn't sound all that important. If you just look at the plot,
it sounds kind of cheesy just by itself.
If you just look at the plot of Spider-Man: Far From Home, it doesn't sound like an integral movie. Like Spider-Man, like Peter Parker goes on a European trip with his classmates. Does it sound important to you? Not me.
Marvel Lampoon's European Vacation.
I can see a lot of people being like, yeah, I don't really need to see that.
Yeah.
Well, already in 1 week, it's made about as much as what the Ant-Man movies make.
Yeah.
So throughout their entire run.
Yeah.
So, like I said, Marvel was really smart to push it the way they did.
Yeah, and one thing this really knocked home for me is how sad I am that Jake Gyllenhaal was never in the superhero game earlier, and how he's not going to have a huge part moving forward.
Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing about his character here, you never know in Marvel world, but the nice thing about his character here is that you get to see both sides. I said, we're spoiling everything, so we know that. Yeah. I mean, anybody that knows the comics knows Mysterio.
We are going in on spoilers here, folks. So we're talking about everything that happens, all the twists and turns. So if you don't want to hear that, then you may want to mute it or check us out in the video later.
All these go up on YouTube, so check it out there after you watch the movie.
Right, and you can find them on the Enemy Live Twitch page too. They'll be up there for a while as well. So, but yeah, we're giving away everything. So we're talking about Mysterio and everything that goes on with him.
Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
So yeah, Mysterio. Anybody that's familiar with the comics knows that he's a bad guy in the comics. He's one of Spider-Man's rogues gallery, and this movie did such a good job of protecting that that turn that I honestly thought going in, I was like, you know what, maybe they bring the multiverse into it, from the trailers. Well, maybe this is a good Mysterio from a different, and there's some other twist here going on. They did such a good job of hiding everything there, and you could really feel it, and you could see the heroism in Jake Gyllenhaal throughout everything that was shown pre-film release, and then through the pieces that you got leading up to any twists and turns during the film. And it really made me kind of sad that we're not going to see Jake Gyllenhaal in a heroic Marvel role, because he's got the build for it, he's got the charisma for it. I wouldn't have guessed. To me, he's kind of like a Tobey Maguire, which is odd since he was going from the Spider-Man role as well. And I know every woman in the country will disagree with me, but I think he's odd. He's always had this face that looks like it's 12, but this body that looks like he's a man. He's got a weird look to me, but it
looks weird to you.
I know.
You're just jealous of all these guys. You're totally jealous of Tobey Maguire.
Oh, absolutely, I am.
I'll got a weird face.
I'll put that on Front Street. Well, there's always something a little odd, like about his face. And I always used to think about how weird it is for him that his sister's like butt naked in every movie, and he probably has to watch them. It's got to be weird.
He probably doesn't watch.
Oh, I'm sure he's seen one of them. But
yes.
He was probably in the audience at Sundance for Secretary, and that's strange enough. But anyway, sidetrack. That mixed with the other twists and turns of the stuff they put on Front Street. There's a really, really big change in Spider-Man, something that was reserved for the comic book series Civil War in the comic realm, that happens at the very end of the movie.
Yeah, let's not talk about that yet. Let's wait.
Okay.
To get to that.
You walk us through. I'm anxious to talk about the post-credit scenes from what I'm looking at.
We'll get to that. But
yeah.
But basically this story takes place. This is our first glimpse at the post-Endgame Marvel universe, and what I really dug about it is that we were really kept in the dark about what it was going to look like, and I felt like that uncertainty kind of carried over into the movie, because you've got Peter Parker, who has been thrust into this position of basically being the world's top superhero. Mm-hmm. There's really nobody left that we know of that's still around. So we're uncertain about where everybody else is. The only one that we know for sure is Spider-Man, and we're unsure about whether or not just as he's unsure about whether or not he could be that hero. But he's still just a kid, so he wants to go and just be a kid too, and go on this European trip. And that's sort of a recurring theme for Spider-Man is to follow your heart or follow your responsibilities. The whole great power comes great responsibility thing. And it's on display here too, because he just wants to, hang out with MJ in Paris, and here comes Nick Fury to come up and blow up his spot, and I really love that they told this story with Spider-Man again, because I think it's even though Spider-Man is not my favorite Marvel character, I've always loved that because it was so special for him, mm-hmm. so unique for him. I mean, and I think they did a really good job of doing that. With this movie, sorry, I just got a message and it just distracted me. But and then Mysterio, Jake Gyllenhaal plays Mysterio. Quentin Beck, who comes from another world, another version of Earth, ripped open by the Thanos snaps, which is what we've been told. Mm-hmm. And he presents himself as being a great hero, and for a long time he does look like a great hero. What I dug about Gyllenhaal being cast as Mysterio is that I've always felt that Jake Gyllenhaal, and a friend of mine was just telling me this too, and I totally agree with her. He's always been an actor prone to overacting, and it's perfect for this kind of character who is sort of dramatic.
It's part of his bit, yeah.
It's perfect for him, and I'm glad that he waited this long to play this role. Yeah, he could have done something with Marvel sooner. He's been up for superhero roles plenty of times before. Thankfully, he never got that Batman gig that they were rumored for a while. He was rumored for a while back. Thank God he didn't do that, because he would have been terrible for that. But he was perfect for this. And whether or not he's around for the long haul or not, I mean, it's Mysterio, so who knows? He was just right for this role. I bought him as a hero, and I bought him when he was no longer considered a hero.
Right.
So I'm really appreciative of the fact that they cast him in his role and that he waited for this. It was perfect for him.
I mean, I was talking about the costume. I know it's directed and talked about, but
to make the fishbowl helmet cool.
I know, right? But going back to the very beginning of the movie, you talked about how this is our first look at the Marvel Universe post snap or blip, as they're calling it now. I just thought part of the little genius things they do. I mean, catching us up with what everybody's wondering. Well, wait. So how does this all work? You know, the people that were 5 years, do they go back? You know, why people are out of school that were in school then. They have this genius, you know, minute and a half opening segment that's like the school's announcements that they do where they explain all that, and they even go down to like, well, you know, Jimmy here, his older brother's now his younger brother, and things like that, and they go through the whole to explain all that, which I thought was great because that's really and they even have little fourth wall break, like it's best not to think about it too much type stuff. But then you get to Mysterio's outfit and the other touches they do, and I've heard from multiple places that I don't know if it was Kevin Feige or somebody else in the costuming department when they're getting these faithful costumes that if you ask anybody, will this work on a movie screen in live action, would tell you no. You know, a guy that's got a cape and a bright green costume and a fishbowl for a head, you know, crystal ball basically for a head. Will that work? No chance, not at all. But they put it in there. They make it look so cool and so and you know, put everything that we know from the comics to make it exactly what we're expecting, but also make it work on the big screen. I mean, that's something they've done wonderfully from day one. I mean, Thor I never thought would work, and you know, look what they did with that. So.
Yeah. Marvel's been really good at making things that shouldn't be cool, very, very cool. So, I agree. But yeah, I thought this one had a pretty good balance of humor. The second time I saw it, I did see a few more dry spots where I was like, yeah, this isn't as funny as I thought it was going to be, or as exciting as I thought it was going to be. There's a few dry spells in there, but not many.
Mm-hmm.
I love the balance of humor and high school humor. They've done a really, really amazing job of making this feel like a teen comedy and a superhero movie. I don't know how they find that balance, but they managed to do it.
I felt like more so than the first one, even to some extent.
I like this one better than Homecoming, and I like it better than Homecoming because this one is mostly Peter Parker on his own.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing I didn't like about Homecoming was that it felt like Spider-Man and Iron Man.
Yeah,
what it felt like to me, and I didn't like that. First of all, I don't really give a shit about Iron Man. Even with Robert Downey Jr., I still don't give a shit about Iron Man.
Oh look, our viewer count is dropping as you speak.
I mean, look, I don't hate the Iron Man movies. I like them fine, and I like Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, but I don't want to see him really. I don't want to see him in the Spider-Man.
Yeah, like, he should stick to where he's at.
To it for me,
right?
Like, he doesn't add anything to it. But this one was Spider-Man kind of stepping out on his own and really having to fend for himself, and I dug that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I like this one better. And there's some pretty big twists in this one too, which I think, like I said, when people look at it, it seems like an unassuming Marvel movie, but it's really not.
Yeah,
it's setting up some pretty big stuff,
mm-hmm.
and it opens up a lot of unanswered questions too, which I know you want to get to when we talk about the post credits. So. I mean, if you want to jump into that, I mean, I could say more about how much I love the relationship between him and MJ. I think Zendaya is...
Oh, she's awesome.
She's damn close to being my favorite MJ, and you know how I feel about Kirsten Dunst.
Mm-hmm.
And Kirsten Dunst with red hair, mind you.
Now, can you really account for Kirsten Dunst all the way through Spider-Man 3? Spider-Man 1 and even 2, I'll give it to you, but by 3, she was not great, I don't think.
But Spider-Man 3 is not great.
Partly because of her, I would argue. Honestly,
because of the script she was given. It wasn't because of her. Probably because of the script.
What you said about Jake Gyllenhaal is something I've always felt about Kirsten Dunst. Like it's always not even overacting, but acting like she's in the 40s. Like, you know, oh darling, I don't know what, like that type of overacting, over dramaticism. But yeah, no, I mean she's gorgeous. Don't get me wrong. And I loved her in the first one and the second one, but the third one not so much. Zendaya is my favorite MJ. I would say that Emma Stone, I think, would have been the best MJ, except for she was Gwen Stacy. So
I like Zendaya's MJ because she's just not like any of the other ones. I mean, she's completely different in just about every way. And I'm not just talking about ethnicity. I'm just talking about her attitude, her personality. Is just
her ethnicity is almost the least of the changes that are you know. It is
the least, and I just love the dynamic between her and Tom Holland. I think it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I even love the stuff with Ned and Betty Brant. I thought that stuff was hilarious too. A lot of things that I liked about this movie. A lot of things that Inception-esque sequence that I think is brilliantly done.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to go see it again, just so I can make sure I see that part in 3D. I think that part would be great in 3D. Just as the final battle will be amazing in 3D, I imagine. Where he's fighting off, all sorts of drones and all sorts of other things.
Yeah.
Is an amazing sequence that I think is the closest you could get to recapturing the energy of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse in a live-action sequence.
Yeah.
That's what it felt to me. So there's just a lot in this movie that there is to appreciate. But yeah, I know you wanted to talk about the post credits. So let's talk about those because they were pretty big.
Yeah, I just really needed clarification on the second one, or maybe I don't remember which order it was in. But so
okay, so the first one is the one where we finally get to see J. Jonah Jameson,
who geniusly is still not J.K. Rowling, J.K. Simmons. Yeah, that
it was funny the second both times that I saw it, everybody was like, oh, the gas.
Yeah.
But I thought that was great. And the Daily Bugle finally arrives as a sort of well, it's dailybugle.net.
Mm-hmm.
But they're kind of like, what's that guy?
InfoWars, Alex Jones. They're kind of like that's what I felt. Yeah.
Like an Alex Jones type website than a legitimate newspaper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is a huge difference. But I just love the fact that they kept they saw how perfect J.K. Simmons was in that role. I mean, comics accurate to a T. He was perfect. So why not bring him back? Who cares?
Everybody loves him.
Yeah.
Why fuck it up? Why
yeah.
change it?
So he comes out and as Peter's already been a little bit more loosey goosey with his secret identity. As if you've seen, hopefully you've seen the movie if you're listening to this part. So obviously MJ, he tells MJ, or she finds out depending on who you ask. And then one of Quentin Beck's last parting shots to Spider-Man was basically a video making everything look like Peter was responsible for the mayhem. Spider-Man, but more importantly, J. Jonah Jameson outs Spider-Man as Peter Parker and complete with his picture and everything like that. So, that great scene that you see in the in the movie where he's taking MJ out for a swing for the first time leads right into that. So,
I got the impression. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I got the impression that it wasn't Mysterio who actually did that. It was the guy who took the files. Because we saw everything that happened there with the Mysterio and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I don't think Mysterio did this. I think it was the other guy, his colleague, who got away. I think it was him who put this stuff out there.
Yeah, I mean, Mysterio. I figured it was part of his plan, but yeah, I mean that's probably a more apt description to say.
It may have been a final contingency plan or something.
Right. So he's outed, and now everybody knows it's not a secret anymore. If you guys from the comics I mentioned about Civil War before, that's a big moment in the Civil War storyline of the comics. Is Peter comes up, takes his mask off, and says, "I am Spider-Man. I've been a Spider-Man for 5 years. I'm 18 years old or whatever." So now Peter's out there, and honestly, secret identities have never really been a thing in the Marvel universe, have they? Not. I mean.
Well, no, they have. Secret identities have been a thing amongst the regular people, civilians, but not amongst each other.
Yeah, I guess that's what it is, because we don't see them amongst.
Because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that Wolverine wouldn't be able to tell who Peter Parker is underneath his suit. If he's run into him before, he could probably sniff out who it is. It's not that.
No, I mean like in the MCU. Like in the MCU, Tony Stark was supposed to.
You mean in the movies?
Yeah. In the movies, it's never been much of a thing,
It's not something that's been really discussed. I mean, but the Avengers have been out there pretty much in public. But Spider-Man hasn't. So for him, the secret identity thing is still a big deal.
Yeah, I mean it's. And plus, he's so young, and that's one last thing he doesn't probably want to contend with. I mean, he's still in school, for God's sakes. But
and you also have to remember that most of the Avengers don't have family just hanging around either.
Yeah.
Hawkeye keeps hitting. Hawkeye's the only one who really does, other than other ones that were major Avengers. Only Hawkeye really had a family that was out there, and he kept them hidden.
Yeah.
And most of his work was clandestine anyway. So Peter Parker was a secret identity still meant a lot to him to have that, and he probably never would have given that up publicly like that. It's not like in the comics where he did it himself, willingly.
Yeah, it was his choice. He wasn't outed.
Yeah, and he only did it because of the Superhuman Registration Act. He didn't do it because. He did it because of that, because he had to, really. But yeah, he never would have done that in the MCU. So to have it be brought out like that, and in the context of him being apparently a murderer, makes it even worse. If it was revealed in the process of him being a hero, well, it might have been okay. But it was revealed in the process of making him look like a murderer. That makes it even worse.
So he's immediately a fugitive, for So that's a big.
What the third movie will be.
Yeah, the big question mark is him, clearing his name. Obviously he's got some friends in powerful places like Nick Fury that can probably fix all that, but that'll lead us to the. Huh?
Does he though?
So going on to the next post-credit scene. I don't know if I was just not paying close enough attention, but did they talk about how long those two had switched places? And I'll let you describe the scene, but I don't remember them saying how far back it goes. Did it go back to Captain Marvel?
We don't. See, that's the question that we don't have answered. See, all right. So basically, the second post-credit scene reveals that the Nick Fury and Maria Hill that we've been following all throughout Far From Home weren't actually Nick Fury and Maria Hill. They were the Skrulls that we saw in Captain Marvel.
Talos and his wife.
Talos and his wife, whose name I don't remember. That's who it was the entire time. And Nick Fury has actually been up in space hanging out with the Skrulls. And what to me looks like a teaser for Sword, which I hope that's what they're doing. Sword is sort of like S.H.I.E.L.D's counterpart in the Marvel Universe. And they're basically intergalactic. They're basically the intergalactic counterpart to S.H.I.E.L.D. That's what it looked like they were possibly setting up there to me. But I don't know. We don't know that. But no, it does not say for how long they've been there, which is the question mark. How long has Nick Fury been a Skrull the entire time, like through the entirety of the Marvel Cinematic Universe? And we don't know, because we first were introduced to Talos and his wife in Captain Marvel, which took place in the 90s. Yeah. So how long has he been up there? We have no idea, and that's one of those things that we're gonna have to find out in future movies. I don't know if we probably won't see that be the. I don't know if that will play out in Spider-Man 3, or if it'll play out over the course of other Marvel movies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, depending on the time frame of Black Widow, it would be a weird thing to kind of shoehorn in there.
He said that he's not in that movie.
Oh, he said he's not in it at all?
Samuel Jackson just said this week that he's not in the Black Widow movie as of yet.
Yeah.
But who knows? Marvel tends to cast people at the very end without telling anybody, so that the secret doesn't get out.
Right.
Sort of like what they just did with J.K. Simmons.
Yeah. I mean, if you guys remember...
The dead last thing that they filmed.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, if you guys remember when Captain Marvel came out, this was one of the first things people said. I mean, number one, the Nick Fury we meet in Captain Marvel is much more... Fun-loving is probably too strong a word, but a much less dour guy. There were little things that people picked up. I mean, nowadays with the internet, people pick up everything. Like, there's a scene in Captain Marvel where he's, like, cutting his bagel right-handed, and then he's actually left-handed in all the movies, something like that. There were little things here and there where everybody was like, okay, this is Secret Invasion. We're going to get Secret Invasion. That's what's going to happen. And then after the movie ended and we saw things were flipped on their head, kind of, there was some talk here and there about, well, is Nick Fury actually Nick Fury after this? Because he seems so different. I always just chalked it up to, we were meeting him 10 years down the road, and that road is lined with, some pretty tough days as a high level SHIELD operator.
I still think that to be true. I still think that to be true. I can't figure out how long he's been gone. Like, was that really him and Maria Hill who got dusted?
Yeah, who were dusted, yeah.
Was that them, or was he already up in space? I mean, I don't know.
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea, but I'm excited to find out the answer.
Well, now this is a little thing, but he did have. I guess Nick Fury obviously did it consentingly. He went and switched with Talos with his knowledge, so they would have transferred over the pager. But we do see Carol Danvers give Nick the pager in Captain Marvel, and then he's got it at the end of Infinity War. But I mean, that could easily be handed over. you could go down a rabbit hole for weeks figuring this out. But it's a really cool question, and a really, I don't even know how I feel about it. Like, I don't know how I'd feel if the Nick Fury we had this whole time, because that means at the end of the day, that means Nick Fury and Iron Man never really hung out, and Nick Fury and Captain America never really had any time together.
A lot of relationships that didn't happen if he was never there. I'm under the belief. I'm under the belief that he was on Earth for most of that time.
Right.
And that he made the swap with Talos at some point that we don't know yet.
Yeah, probably like after Winter Soldier, when Shield first went down and he was on the run anyway.
That would be the most logical time.
Yeah.
That would be the most logical time because he was gone. He was gone for a long time. Remember?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that would be a pretty good time for him to have gone up into space. And at that time, when all that was happening, we hadn't been introduced to Captain Marvel or the Skrulls, so he had no reason to think about that. But he very easily could have gone up there and decided to hang out with them for a while. I'm more concerned about where Maria Hill is because I need to make sure that we are going to get more Kobe Smulders in more movies. And I need to find out. I need to make sure she's not dead or anything.
No, I mean that was a weird omission from that last credit. You'd expect them to be sitting on that beach together, but
he's up there in space with Nick Fury.
Oh, she's but the good thing is they have the Skrulls, so she can come back even if she's gone. That could be how we bring Black Widow back. Skrulls, But all in all, I mean, like you said, I definitely I'm with you on it being the best of the two Spider-Man movies, which is pretty high praise considering how much I liked Homecoming. And if Spider-Man's going to be the Iron Man going forward, and I don't mean in what he does, but I mean in the icon of the MCU, the poster child. I don't think they couldn't get a better person to do it than Tom Holland.
I mean, they basically got one more Spider-Man movie
contracted.
We don't know what Sony will decide to do after that. I mean, we just don't know.
Yeah.
I'm going to guess that Sony will extend whatever the deal was they have with Marvel because why not?
They could get greedy and think, oh well, he's his own thing now, so we can do something with it. But then they wouldn't get the Marvel touch that makes it better.
It wouldn't be greedy. It would be smart. I mean, look, I've always been under the impression that Sony was stupid for ever letting Spider-Man go to Marvel, even in this deal.
Right.
Because if they didn't, they would have. I mean, they just had a Venom movie that made over $800 million, and that was with people not even really liking it.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Let me take that back. General audiences liked it fine. Critics didn't like it, but it made over $800 million, and people actually want to see another one. So imagine if they had Spider-Man in their ranks right now too, and they could be doing something like having Spider-Man get involved. If they had never freaked out after Amazing Spider-Man 2 underperforming, they'd be in one hell of a position right now.
Oh yeah. I mean, and they're already kicking that stuff around, and I think one of the coolest things we're hearing kicked around, and I know it's all just wishful thinking at this point, but Tom Holland's put up some stuff as well as everybody's talking about the multiverse after the success of Spider-Man into the multiverse, into the Spider-Verse, excuse me. Now everybody's talking about what we were talking about earlier, the three Spider-Mans coming back together and being in one. And I think it's a really cool idea. I think it worked really well in an animated form, and I think Miles Morales was the biggest part of that, and that's what they're leaving out right now. But
Miles Morales in live action form.
Was that?
I need to see live action Miles Morales.
Yeah, I mean, even if I would hate for it to wait, but we talk about Tom Holland. Let's say he's going to be the Iron Man. So at the end of the Iron Man run, which was 10 years, so that would be 2027. Even if they wait till then, they need to do it then. Like when Tom Holland's ready to be done with Spider-Man and he's doing his last movie, that last movie needs to be, or the second to last movie needs to be the introduction of Miles Morales, and then the passing of the torch to Miles Morales. There's no other way. You don't recast Peter Parker again, especially now that you've proven the box office draw that Miles Morales can bring.
Yeah, I think that's probably what they would end up doing. I think they'll introduce Miles Morales before that, but we'll see.
Yep.
But anyway, I'm hoping because Marvel's been confirmed for Comic-Con now that we're going to get some clues.
Yeah.
They confirmed their panel I think last week, but it was only yesterday that we got the actual confirmation of the panel at Hall H and the time, which is its usual time, Saturday, 5:15 to 6:45, so 90 minutes of Kevin Feige talking Marvel Studios.
What's the usual time block?
Usual. What's that?
What's the usual time? Is 90 minutes the usual time block to get?
Yeah, it's usually about 90 minutes.
Okay.
So yeah, this is it's always huge. They weren't there last year. They were last year. It was 2017. So this is going to be a big deal because we don't know. It's the first time we're going here really not knowing much of anything.
Yeah. Well, with the Black Widow
really
poster
excited.
coming out, we can imagine that Black Widow is probably going to be a big part of it.
Black Widow should be a part of it. It's filming now, so it should be a part of it. I'm excited for that. But yeah, this is going to be huge. And I'm, of course, I should be there.
I love the little grin you get as soon as you start to say that. You're like, yeah, I'm going to be there.
I mean, look, there's always the chance that my plans of just waltzing right in don't follow through, don't happen.
Right.
But because I don't do the sleeping overnight outside bullshit.
And they don't do any kind of press access or anything like that for that, right? You go in, everybody goes in the same.
You get in or you don't.
Mm.
There is a way for press to get in.
Right.
And I'll just see if that works out. It usually does. It has the last couple of years, and I'll do it again this year. So we'll see. But yeah, they've managed to cobble together a pretty good Hall H. I was worried, when Sony dropped out and Warner Brothers dropped out. I was worried that Hall H wasn't going to be very good this year, but it's actually looking pretty good. I'm kind of excited to see the Terminator Dark Fate footage. There's a whole bunch of other stuff.
God, I hope it's better.
The It Chapter 2 footage, I think I'm excited for. So that's still my favorite trailer. I love that trailer. Next to the Hobbs and Shaw trailers, the It Chapter 2 trailer is fantastic.
Yeah. You gotta love the Fast and Furious franchise in general, just for not only they're taking the whole we know what we are thing to a whole nother level. I mean, they're embracing it past the point of love.
Absolutely ridiculous. It looks ridiculous and awesome. We're almost at an hour already. We haven't even really had a chance to talk about The Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to get your opinion on it because we haven't talked about it, and this is an issue dealing with race. And
Well, Travis, I think what is white stay white.
I always want to get your opinion when it comes to issues of race.
Well, I mean,
I don't mean that in a bad way.
No, I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say I did the same to you. But
your opinion of cultural things is different than mine.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I always want to hear your thoughts on this stuff. But
well, I've read this tweet.
Now, when Halle Bailey, who's an actress probably most people don't know of for the most part. I mean, she's a singer, actress. She's been in episodes of Grownish. She's really talented.
Mm-hmm.
But she was cast as Ariel in Disney's The Little Mermaid remake, and people have freaked out, of course, because she's African American. So, oh my God, we can't. we need an actual white mermaid with red hair, I guess, for that role. It's just so stupid, just so dumb.
Yeah.
But I've kind of had it up to here with people like this already, with stuff like this. I don't, especially when it comes to fictional, because it's always fictional characters. What am I talking about? It's not like they made a movie about Oprah Winfrey and they cast Melissa McCarthy. It's always fictional characters.
Yeah.
So I'm like, they can be any fucking thing, especially when you're talking about a mermaid from an old fairy tale, not necessarily the Disney animated movie, but just the original fairy tale. She could be literally anything, and people were freaking out.
I mean, here's the thing. I'll just start off by saying I cannot wait till the day when we just cast somebody based on their ability. Not casting somebody just because that's the way it was, or not casting somebody just because they're gay or they're Chinese or they're white or whatever. Just, who's best for the job. We're a long way away from that, I know that. And I think the best way I can really put this out there, because I think the problem a lot... Also, let's clarify that it's not...
Are you saying that she wasn't cast based on her ability?
No, she absolutely was. No, that's what I'm saying. See, I knew you were going to turn that around on me. What I'm saying is that
I'm trying
people
to help you out.
people wanted people wanted a white redhead cast because it was the way it had been, and honestly, that's what they say, but that's not what they mean. And there was this tweet this girl put out, and I think if everybody could understand, because I think one of the problems with white America and the way we take this is a percentage of it is just hatred. There's no question about that. And then I think there's a percentage that's just a lack of understanding. Now, the people you hear talking about, the people that are tweeting, that's the hate. But there's people behind it that, like, for instance, I never really understood what's representation in film. Because if it's something you always have, and it sounds stupid to say and it sounds ignorant, but if it's something you always have, you don't see it as being something important. Just like if you always had money, you'd be like, well, what do you care so much about money for? Until
it's like the saying goes, to people in power, equality feels like theft.
well, right, yeah. So there's people that are out there thinking, and they're absolutely wrong. There's no question about that. But I think it's important for people to know what representation does for people. I mean, if you're a white suburban guy like me, you've always seen some manner of you on screen. I mean, I got Captain America, I got Iron Man, I got every all these people. But this one tweet I thought brought it together real quick, and it was this girl on Twitter. She said, when I was a kid, Ariel, she said I have a real interest in Ariel because when I was a kid, being white and having red hair was always a bad thing until Ariel came out in Little Mermaid. All of a sudden, people wanted to have my hair. I could see somebody like I wasn't weird, I wasn't different, and I'm not doing it justice the way she wrote it. It was kind of one of those.
I actually heard somebody else who actually was
telling me. And she essentially said, I want little African American girls to have that same feeling. I want them to see themselves on screen. I have a daughter now. My nieces and nephews are all half white, half black, whatever we call that nowadays. And for them especially, not seeing anybody of a mixed race on screen, or if they are, it being played one way or the other. And for my daughter, she said the other day she didn't want to see The Lion King because the girls didn't have anything to do. I mean, that stuff sounds stupid, but it's not. It's really important, and it means a lot to people. And if you think it sounds stupid, it's because you haven't taken the time to look into what it means to people.
Right.
I mean, basically, and at the end of the day, it's a fictional fucking character. Take whoever's best. In this case, it's Haley Bailey. I keep wanting to say Haley Baldwin.
Haley Bailey. Everybody's been calling her Haley Bailey.
Yeah, Haley Bailey is the best for the role. I mean, and 9 times out of 10, when people are arguing about the casting based on race, they're trying to cover something that's just exposing their ignorance and their hatred underneath it. I'm not trying to be that guy that's like, oh, ignorance, hatred, but basically that's what it is. And if you're thinking that, you're just being stupid.
Yeah.
And what I was opening up with is what the world that I eventually want to see, that we're far away from, where this stuff is never an issue, because it's just like, oh, this person's best for the role because they're best for the role, regardless of what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
it's something that I was describing to somebody when I was talking about this new season of Stranger Things, and I was talking about the character Lucas. I can't remember the black kid's name who plays him.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember any of their names from that show except for Millie Bobby Brown. Anyway,
Finn Wolfhard. You can't forget Finn Wolfhard's name.
Yes,
it's
Finn
so
Wolfhard
rocking.
is pretty easy to remember. But anyway, but the thing is, when I was a kid, I would have loved to have seen a character like Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
Especially one who got to date the white girl with red hair, because I'm a black guy who's always been attracted to white women, but that's not something you ever really got to see on TV. You never got to see it on TV, actually, unless it was some sort of taboo or seen as a crime.
Yeah.
So to me, yeah, it's a little thing, because that's my specific taste.
It's not a little thing though, because
Yeah,
you're not the only person.
But yeah, you're right. It really isn't a little thing, because
Mm-hmm.
Black people weren't allowed to be seen as associated with white people like that. So when I was a kid, there was nothing like that on TV, like zero.
Mm-hmm.
So to see him now, a character of such prominence in that kind of relationship, in an interrelationship relationship, I think is brilliant, and I love the character even more because of that. It makes me love the show even more because of that. So there are kids who probably grew up who feel the same way I do, who are seeing that character being like, yes, it's really cool.
And the beautiful thing about it is they don't address that. They don't treat it like an elephant in the room. They don't really even address. I think maybe her brother did in season 2.
He's your standard issue idiot guy who doesn't know doesn't know how to talk to women. He's a standard issue moron, like all the other guys who don't know how to treat their girls, because they're too young.
Yeah. And honestly, that's the sad thing. I don't want to get too deep in all this, but that's the sad thing about all this, is because one of the things I love about Stranger Things is that group is very similar to my friend group when I was growing up. And nobody ever talked about that anybody was different in the group. I mean, when you're young to a certain age, you guys just have fun together. You like each other because you're laughing or because you're having fun or whatever. And it's not until your parents or older people start to inject that into you, which is the biggest travesty of it all, is that it comes from people who should know better, that everything starts to change. So yeah, I mean, I there's been a lot of things in my life that I've had to look at me, the poor white man. No, but there's been a lot of things in my life that
I know it's been tough for you, John.
Yeah.
I don't know
Well,
how you've made it this far. I really don't.
well, I mean, and that's the thing is because it hasn't been tough for me in that respect. I owe it to everybody else to take the extra second and understand where they're coming from, and that was one of the hardest things for me to understand. I mean, there were things in my life where I look back and I was against them for one reason or the other, you know, be it an upbringing or anything like that. But you take the chance to sit back and think about it and put yourself in somebody else's shoes, regardless of what the difference between you and them is, whether it's race, creed, religion, whatever. And you know, it doesn't take long for you to see the stupidity in hating or disliking anything for something so stupid.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yep, I hear you, man. What else we got? We got
Escape Plan. Let's go from something deep to something shallow.
Escape Plan. You still want to talk about Escape Plan 3? I mean, I thought this was pretty cool. I
Yeah.
thought this was pretty awesome of Stallone to post this video of the scene from Escape Plan 3. Of course, in the process of doing that, he dropped his pants all over Escape Plan 2. Which is a really bad movie. It's awful.
Yeah.
He called it the worst produced movie he's ever been a part of, which is really saying something when you're Sylvester Stallone.
And you started off in Kitty and Stud's Great Adventure, or whatever that porno we used.
Your career spans like 40 years or something.
Yeah.
It's really saying something that's the worst produced movie you've ever been a part of. But he posted a video for Escape Plan 3, which is out, and I'm a little bit upset that I didn't get. No publicist reached out to me to review it, possibly because of the way I treated the last one, I suppose. But because I really do want to see it, and it actually sounds like it's better than the last one. So I really do want to check it out. I'll probably have to buy it on VOD or something. Maybe I'll try and watch it tonight. But he posted a video of a fight scene between him and Devon Sawa. Now, if you don't know Devon Sawa,
It just makes me laugh hearing it out loud.
I have always thought Devon Sawa was someone who had a very punchable face.
Yeah.
He's the guy from Final Destination, the lead guy in that. He's been in a bunch of other stuff too. In fact, I despise him as an actor. I can't stand him in pretty much anything he's in. But
What's behind that? I mean, you can't go that deep and not tell us what's behind it.
No,
Was there a particular movie or just how he looks?
It's just it's pretty much all just because of how he looks. He looks like somebody you'd want to kick their ass every day.
Yeah.
He just has that kind of face, and it's not as bad now he's gotten older. He's a little bit more grizzled, I guess. But when he was younger, yeah, he was
definitely the rich,
very
pretty boy
punchable.
type. Yeah,
very punchable. He was also in Idle Hands. Remember that?
Love. Oh, dude. If I can be a completely disgusting man for a second, Jessica Alba was in this. That was before Honey, before she got really popular on Dark Angel.
Oh, yeah.
There is a scene at the end I have not seen an asticular equal in my life than when they're in that garage and she comes up and gives him a hug and she's got. Anyway, go ahead.
No.
It's amazing. The situation is amazing. I've never seen it like it. Screenshot.
No. I know. If you go on Twitter and look at it, just type in Jessica Alba Idle Hands gifs
or ass, you'll see it.
Yeah, you'll see the scenes that John is talking about. But basically, Stallone posted a video of a fight scene with him and Devon Sawa that is not choreographed. It's an actual fight.
He's doing UFC or something now?
It's unproduced. It's an unproduced fight scene. It's just a fight scene for the movie where they didn't allow for any choreography. They did it themselves. They fought. Right. And it's really cool looking. It's cool because it's not choreographed, which means it's not perfect either. It means that it doesn't always look great. Like it doesn't. It's not fluid. It's not like I said. It's not produced.
I mean,
it's not
for real.
Like any other move, like any other fight scene would be, which always looks very. It's not going to look like John Wick fight scenes or the Raid fight scenes.
Right.
It's not going to look like that. It looks like a fight, which is not always perfect looking.
It's messy and it's
a really cool little piece of video, and I think people should check it out.
Yeah, I didn't know if we could post that or not. We're working on some clearance issues on stuff, so we got to stick to the images now. But yeah, I didn't know that Escape Plan had become such a thing. It must be huge overseas, otherwise why would they have a third one?
Yes.
But
it does well overseas. It doesn't do shit here.
the thing I wanted to bring up in conjunction with this is that while he's promoting that on Twitter, 4th of July comes around, and now Stallone is saying that Expendables 4 he's got an idea for after he's so Sylvester Stallone is 98 years old. But you know what, dude? I'm not gonna lie to you. When the Rambo Last Blood trailer came out, I kind of wanted to see it. It wasn't unbelievable. It was unlikely. It wasn't unbelievable to see him doing that.
It was good. No. Yeah. It's not that he's it's not that he's an unlikely action star at this age. I mean,
he's 73.
Rambo Last Blood looks great to me, actually. But no, the reason why I wasn't excited about Expendables 4 is because I'm just not excited about Expendables 4. I mean,
yeah, fair enough.
And because Expendables 4 has been talked about for so long now that I'm not so sure that it even will happen, no matter how many times it gets brought up.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm not excited about it. Yeah, I mean, I would totally go see an Expendables 4 with Stallone in it if he did it. I'll go see pretty much any action movie Stallone does. But, yeah, I'm not excited about Expendables 4 just because I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I'm sitting there watching the fireworks, and I'm just writing a movie.
I don't see it. But the Escape Plan 3 stuff is really cool. If you haven't already seen the movie, then you should go and check out that video. It's on the site, punchstruckcritics.com.
Yeah.
And I do want to rent that movie and watch it. I feel like I should just out of completion's sake.
Yeah.
I had to do the first two. And if I could endure that second one, then I should be able to endure this one. It does.
Yeah, especially if there's...
Dave Bautista's back for it.
Yeah.
So why not?
And 50 Cent, who's got an illustrious film career.
He's got a film career.
All right, man. I know you had stuff to do today. We're at an hour and 10 minutes of complete show this week.
I've got New Japan Wrestling to watch. So I am going to...
Is that the shit you had to do that you told me about?
Yeah. It is.
Hey, you're honest, man. I'll give it to you.
I've got it is the greatest month for a pro wrestling fan in the world right now. So I am excited to watch this show. It's just the G1 climax. It's awesome. So
nice.
It's a month long tournament. So it started last night in Texas, and I didn't get to watch it, so I'm gonna watch it now. So
there's a lot more organization to
important stuff I needed to do today.
Right on. Hey, to each his own. There's a lot more organization to wrestling than I thought. I thought it was always just like Monday Night Raw and then pay-per-views, but it sounds like there's a lot more to it. You guys can go ahead.
People should go to punchstruckcritics.com and check out the new Mulan trailer, which Disney put out today at like noon for the weird. I was like, really? Just all of a sudden.
Noon on Sunday, and it doesn't star a white girl. The hell?
No, it doesn't. It actually looks amazing. It's got this. It's the action is very wuxia style, so it kind of looks like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which is exactly what it should be like.
Oh yeah, I mean if they had taken it any other way, I mean it should take a lot of cues from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Hero is a good one for it to take cues from. I mean obviously the animated film, but when you're talking about cinematography and how it should feel, I think those two movies are probably huge.
Yeah, and I like Disney's. I like Disney's choices that they're doing with their movies, man. The representation and the diversity that they're showing. I mean, Aladdin was what I thought was a much better movie than it had any business being. I love that they gave Princess Jasmine a little bit more of a motivation to be a part of the movie rather than just being Aladdin's love interest. She had a lot more to do.
Yeah.
The Lion King cast is crazily diverse, and of course Mulan, they accurately cast some nothing but Chinese superstars.
That's what you just said it. I was trying to think out of phrases, but it's always I want to say funny, but it's really sad to me when people are always talking about I'm glad they're putting diversity in movies, and I'm just always thinking like, well, technically yes, diversity, but aren't they just accurately casting these roles now? I mean, we're if you want to look at the progress we've had, not to go back into this progress we've had in Hollywood with Me Too and the diversity movements and things like that. It wasn't 10 years ago that Jake Gyllenhaal, who we talked about earlier, was the Prince of Persia. So, and that was a regular thing.
Yeah,
so
that wouldn't stand. That wouldn't stand right now. I mean, you could try to pull that off, I suppose, but you would take so much backlash for it. I mean,
yeah.
It wasn't that long ago that we were talking about Ridley Scott's casting of Exodus Gods and Kings. I mean, where it was just ridiculous. And remember his reasoning for it was, well, I mean, I can't get the same budget if I cast, ethnically accurate actors. And it's like, well, then make a cheaper movie, asshole. I mean,
it might have been better. I just.
The movie was a dud anyway. So
the only reason I'm pissed that this is happening when it's happening is that my boy is not getting cast. And now I call him my boy and I forget his damn name. He's in The Mummy. He was in Resident Evil. He was in 100,000. He was in Deuce Bigelow. I remember that for some reason. Oded Fair. Was my boy. I always thought he got so shortchanged in Hollywood. If he had just been 10 years later, he probably would have been a top name because that dude had it all.
He was in the Brandon Fraser Mummy movies, right?
Yeah. He was like the head of the Illuminati type group that was with him. Yeah, he's awesome.
He's a good actor.
I've always liked him. He's
Israeli, right?
I honestly don't know.
No,
I thought he was Middle Eastern, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, he's Israeli.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it would be more accurate than Jake Gyllenhaal. So, but we'll let you guys get out of here. We'll be back next week. We're gonna try and get some midweek content in this week as well. At least I am.
What is next week? What movies come out next week? Do we even know?
The Lion King.
The Lion King is the week after.
Is it?
Right?
No, I thought it was this week. Let me double check.
I know our screening is this week.
Our screening is Tuesday, but I got the update here. Let's see.
That was Wednesday.
Stuber and Crawl. Yeah, you're right. Wait. Yeah, Stuber and Crawl come out this next week, and Lion King and The Farewell the next week. And then after that, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Right. So we don't have much to talk about next week then, because it ain't gonna take more than 2 minutes to talk about Stuber.
Well, since next week is like
going to take more than 2 minutes to talk about Stuber.
Since next week is the 15th of July, the middle of July, maybe we can finally do what we were talking about and do our best for the first half of 2019.
Oh yeah, we could probably do that.
So,
yeah.
Cool.
All right,
guys. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for hanging out.
Of course, the week after I won't be here. So.
Yeah, you'll be in Comic-Con. Maybe we can do some kind of quick live from situation.
I will let you know. Depends on how things shake out over there.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll figure it out. Until then, thanks for joining us, guys. Check this if you're checking us on YouTube or Twitch. Just click that follow or subscribe button. We would really appreciate it. And keep an eye on punchdrunkcritics.com every day for all the updates. And we will be back with you next week. Later.
All right. Later.